Hey guys, welcome to this week with Chris and Bob. It's World Password Day, and I figured we would have a little discussion about that. And I know Chris did a video earlier in the week about passwords, and I thought it would be a great thing
Yeah,
to expand on this week.
it's also Cinco de Mayo, and if Bob and I were in the same room, maybe we'd be sharing tequila right now. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
No, no tequila today.
So we have to talk about.
Anyway, Chris, we were talking before the call about
Yeah,
about the video that you just did in some of the statistics you had. Now, I held up the board when it started. It's like a lot of people are still using keyboard combinations as passwords, and it's really time to get away from that.
well, it's keyboard combinations. It's things like if you start going down statistics, which don't want to bore you too much, but like 31% of people will use their child's name or birthday in their password. 34% will use their significant other's name or birthday in their password. 37% will use their employer's name in their password. And then 44% of people reuse passwords between personal and work. And it just creates this dynamic where if one password gets leaked because personally you log into a website and you use a really easy password that includes like maybe your child's name, their birthday, and things like that, those are really easy to guess. And if you use that in work and personal, there's a chance that somebody could get their data exposed at work or personally or both. And it's created this dynamic that leads to things like phishing schemes and things like that, where people can get access to your email, trick you to do things. And we're just living in a world right now where we have to rethink the way that we do passwords. And the video I made this week on our channel was all about password recommendations, and they've changed. A decade ago, everybody was like, you need the most complex password in the world. Today, it's kind of went to worry about the length of the password and not necessarily how complex it is. So
Okay.
8 characters is recommended, but for me, that's not long enough, because if you start looking at it, brute forcing 8 characters, and brute forcing is a way of just basically generating every single word that has 8 characters with numbers and things like that, it doesn't take that long. But once you start getting up to like 12 to 15 characters, it's very difficult to do. It's going to take a long time. So
Well, that also depends where they're logging into, because
sure.
if you can get the hashes, you can do it all offline. Yeah, you can blast the hell out of it. But
Well, and there's things like word lists too that people run against. So they're not necessarily brute forcing. They're using things like word lists. So there's been so many breaches that and so many password dumps that it's really easy to go out and find these password lists and then run those against a hash like you're talking about to crack the passwords. You don't even have to try to brute force it, and you can go through those very quickly. So as we rethink passwords, we think about passphrases. So it could be a song lyric, something that's easy for you to remember, but it needs to be unique for every site. And the challenge is we're still human at the end of the day. And if the average person has 100 passwords, which I wish I was the average person, because I think my password manager has more than 1,000. So
yep.
100 passwords alone is almost impossible to memorize, and unless you're using variants of it, and that's dangerous in its own right. So we have to get to this point where we use password managers and we generate passwords in that password manager, but to get to the password manager, we're using a passphrase. And
Yep.
I know you like LastPass. I like
Yeah, I've
LastPass
got
too.
LastPass, and I actually use MFA to get into that.
Yeah, I we use Keeper, and I use MFA as well to get into that. And I have a passphrase. So my passphrase is 20 some characters. But it's a sentence, so it's something that's real easy for me to type and really easy for me to memorize. And then every password that I use for every site is auto-generated, at least 15 characters, and I store that in the password manager. So,
Okay, so that's actually a really good point. That you've got these big passwords that
hmm,
you're storing in the password manager. You never see them. Are
yep.
you afraid of losing them?
No, because I can always recover a password,
Okay.
right?
A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not going to use a generated password because one, I have to type it all the time, and two, I might, if something happens to the password manager, what am I going to do?"
Yep.
So,
Well, and the beautiful thing today, whether you use Keeper, whether you use LastPass, or whether you use some of these other tools, is they work both on your mobile phone, your mobile devices, and your web browser. So you could take your passwords with you. that's a beautiful thing. So I use it everywhere. I use it on my phone. I use it on, obviously my browser when I'm working in that. So I can always look up passwords if I need to, if I need to type them in. They go with me everywhere I need to go, and I'm less concerned about them being unavailable. And even if they are unavailable, you can always generate a password again.
Yeah, no, I think people more was always about getting locked out of the account, or trusting that if I put my passwords in LastPass or Keeper, I'm
Hmm.
giving LastPass or Keeper my passwords when that's not the case.
No, they're encrypted. So they're encrypted specifically for you. So they won't be able to read your password. Like you
Okay.
have to be able to authenticate to it and to even decrypt your password. So you're not giving anybody your password. Now, if you export it from your password manager and you put it in a text file or put it in like a CSV, yeah, then it's clear text and anybody can read it. Don't do that. Okta got burned by that. The third party that I forgot the name of it. The third party that ended up getting in Okta and compromised some of their accounts was because they had exported their LastPass into just like a plain text file,
Hmm.
and they even named it that. So it was like the easiest thing in the world to find and use passwords. So you want to protect your password manager just like you want to protect like a safe, a vault, and a lot of them use the term vault, and you protect that with a passphrase, something that's long, easy to remember that you can log in with, and MFA of course. But
We haven't talked about this before, but some of the
oh,
password managers allow you to store your MFA tokens inside of that. What do you think about that?
I like it for some sites. Keeper does that specifically. I can't remember if LastPass does.
Yeah, we do it with LastPass too.
Yeah, it's nice because it autofill the MFA token in. Like that's nice. Obviously, you're not using that to get into. You're using a different method to get into your password manager,
Yep.
but it does. It does work well. I have not used it on a mobile device though, so I don't know. I can't speak to that. I still use a different MFA for most of my stuff.
Yeah, but storing that storing the Google Authenticator
Mhm.
tokens in your password managers is really good because when if you need to move around devices or there's something else, you've got it all set to go.
Or
Uh,
share with another team member.
yep, exactly.
A lot of times I've noticed in the business, people don't want to put MFA in an account because they're afraid, well, I can't share this inside the company. Well, if you put it in a password manager, like Bob was talking about, yeah, you can share it with other people. So you can still have that benefit of MFA for the account, but you can share it with your team, and you choose who you
Absolutely.
share it with. So that's the other critical part you want to think about.
And a lot of the password managers like will allow you to share passwords, share access to accounts, and in some cases, it's not 100%, but you can actually share an account with somebody else and not give them the password by sharing. Like LastPass allows me to just to share a password with somebody, and they can only use it to get into the account, but they never see it.
Yeah, and
It's
there's some sketchy
Yeah, I
stuff that
know.
you could do with pasting and stuff like that, but um, what I like about them is normally you can stop people from editing the password.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you give proper permissions to for the account. Like even if they can see the password, they can't change it.
Okay.
So you could change it once they like if they're an employee that leaves or whatever, you can unshare. You can change it and whatnot. And if you change it,
So
it actually gets shared with everybody anyway.
jumping back to that it's World Password Day.
Yeah.
What are some of the action items that people should be doing today to do it? And I'm not talking about let's go have a password party, you know,
I
but
like the password party idea, honestly. Like I think we should test that theory.
yeah, that,
Uh,
that would be an interesting thing
no,
because help desk tickets would go up the next day, I'm sure.
no. Number one, if you're not using a password manager today, go out and get one. Doesn't matter which one you use, just figure out one that works for you and use it. Like we like Keeper and LastPass. There's one password. There's
There's plenty of them out there. In
yeah. There's
fact,
there's there's a ton of them out there that you can use.
we're actually including it on our security plus stack now, so that everyone's just getting LastPass at the company. In fact, one of the great features on LastPass, I think Keeper does it too, is we can when we bring on one of the employees, they also get a personal version of LastPass that they can share with their family.
Yep.
That's separate from us,
Yeah.
so
Same
that
thing.
they're we're fixing the business passwords, and we're also
Hmm.
giving them a product to use in their family to make them safe, because there's so much with all the home use of devices, and the passwords getting replicated in multiple places. It just makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Keeper does that as well. I just get a password manager, protect it with a passphrase, turn multi-factor, two-factor authentication on. We can leverage Duo internally, which is it's a different product. You can use free Google Authenticator. You can use Authy, which is similar. You can use any 2FA you want. Apple has it built into the phones now if you really want to use it that way. Just use something. Protect it like it's your safe, and you can store a lot more in there. Actually, one thing we didn't talk about password managers, you can store things like your insurance information, some bank account information, some payment card information, so you can protect it and actually submit it in forms. So there's a lot more to it than just passwords. It's about critical information that you don't want people to see, and you can protect it and bring it with you wherever you need to go.
And that's a really good point, because if you've got access to your vault, you could store travel documents, critical stuff that you could put in there when you're traveling abroad to go get access to it should you need it at any time, and not have to worry about, is it sitting in my email, which we know isn't safe and vulnerable for the bad guys to see. So, and like I said, it is World Password Day. So, go back and look at the passwords that you're using and change them, and forget about putting a number after the password or incrementing those numbers, because guess what, guys? The bad guys can count too.
Yeah. Well, another thing too, just to go back to we're not trying to beat the password manager thing into the ground, but a lot of them do analytics based on the passwords you have stored in there. And if you're reusing passwords, they're going to show you that. And it's going to be recommended that you change the passwords. So it's also like a historical representation of like what sites you have. So go get a password manager, generate passwords inside of that. Leverage that. One thing that we didn't touch on is if you have a really good password, a good passphrase, let's say it's 15 characters long, you don't have to change it all the time. Now, there are some archaic systems like banks and stuff like that are still forcing people to make changes on passwords. It's not necessary. If it's not a compromised password, you don't need to change it. But if you're reusing it across multiple sites, still change it. So.
What about if that password's hidden behind, if MFA is required on the account too? Do we even need to change the passwords? Or how often?
You don't have to change the passwords. If it's not, as far as NIST is concerned, you don't have to change a password unless it's compromised.
Okay.
And I'd argue as long as it's not compromised and it's it's a long enough password, there's no reason to change it unless you really need to. Unless for some reason you think it was leaked. You think it was compromised, then go ahead and change it. But if you're protecting someone with MFA and you have a good passphrase, that stops like 98 to 99% of attacks.
So we did an audit last week for a company. We only looked at 2 of their machines. One guy had 30 accounts with the same password that we were able to crack and compromise. So it was like, guys, we just need to change it. And the other thing is as soon as you implement the password manager, let's look at getting the passwords out of Chrome and Google and don't save them in the browser anymore. I think that would be the big. So the 3 things for this week is get a password manager.
Yep.
Use generated passwords and take them out of the browser, because those are so easy to get.
They're ridiculously easy to get. So stop it. Just stop doing that. Oh, and as far as cracking passwords, we do that as well internally. Let's just put it this way: we're on a clip between 75 and 77% success rate on grabbing passwords on somebody's network. So people have bad password habits. That's what this day's about. It's about fixing that. It's about spreading the word and making sure that we're all protecting ourselves. Because remember, at the end of the day, the password is your first line of defense against somebody getting into whatever account that you have. Yeah. And if it's a bad password, it makes it super easy to get into it.
Cool. So hope you guys enjoyed this week. If you use a password manager or you've got questions about a password manager, drop a comment below. And if you got a topic that you'd like to hear for a future talk, Chris and I would be happy to to jump on it and make it happen.
Yeah. Let us know what you want. What you want to hear. What frustrates you in your business from a cyber perspective. It could be cloud-based. It doesn't have to all be about security. Bob and I have a lot of experience doing a lot of things. So let us know and we'll kind of put that together for you.
Cool. Have a great day.